welcome back to the Alliance Sonoran. I'm your commentator, Reload, joined with moderator, and today we have Test Alliance, Please Ignore versus the Bastion. Test Alliance are bringing, last year's traditional setup, bringing Dual Typhoon, Aneros, Myrmidon, 2 Vigilance, Vengeance, Vexer, and 2 Purifiers. Moderator, tell me what the Bastion have brought. They've brought something a little special, haven't they?
Yeah, as Reload was saying, Bastion have brought an Armageddon, a Guardian, a pair of Stratios, a pair of Prophecy, a Pontifex, and a pair of Vexers. Bastion may be going for those Stratioses due to the ban of Test Alliance choosing the Ishtar and the Gila. Test not wanting to see especially a shield kiting drone composition, whereas Bastion banning off the Blackbird and the Vindicator, not wanting to have to deal with jams onto those Pontifexes, which have a much lower sensor strength than, say, a stronger core ship, and not wanting to deal with the Vindicator, not wanting to get grabbed and trying to be able to kite much more freely.
Absolutely, and the Tesla Alliance Fleet Typhoons have brought rapid heavies instead of the standard, so those Vigilants can, try and web something and just nuke them down as quickly as possible. So there's a lot of burst damage on the Tesla Alliance team. Armageddon could play a large role. They need to nuke these Vigilants and the Vexers before they try and come in and start tackling these Stratios and Prophecies. Bastion have brought mainly an Amar Master Race team. The Armageddon, almost the entire team is Amar, except for those Vexers. They're Galante, while Tesla Alliance have brought a large mix of Minmatar, Galante, and Amar. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Maybe they were scared of jams. I have a feeling they were probably scared of jams. An all Amar setup, almost all Amar setup, and also drones as well. Once again, drones are very common, but Tesla Alliance, going for the traditional Dual Typhoon core that we've all seen for the past 2 Alliance tournaments now. So Dual Typhoon is pretty strong, but I have a feeling it's not as strong as in this meta, just because the drones are really strong right now. T2 combat drones, obviously allowed in this meta, and Fleet Typhoons obviously have 5 large heavies, but they can only have the T1 rep bots, which made them so strong. Just having a really strong tanky match is going in 30 seconds. What do you think is going to happen with this Test Alliance team?
The Test Alliance bringing a pair of Vigilants, they're going to want to lock down something with the 90% webs and get on top of it. The Fleet Typhoons that they've elected to bring will either have smart bombs to try to clear off drones, or they'll have heavy nukes to try to lock something down and drain its capacitor. Test also has rapid heavies on those Fleet Typhoons, so they're going to want to close to range and get on top and brawl with grapplers as opposed to kite away like we saw with Fleet Typhoons in the past. The match is now underway. Both teams are just now getting up to speed, having come in rather far away from each other. Test warping in between 30 and 50, and Test already choosing to electron bomb, trying to kill some of the incoming berserkers running across the field. Let's see if he'll catch any in just a second. And he does actually delete some of the berserkers and Valkyries off the field. Excellent defensive bombing run by Test, not something we've seen a lot in the past few years.
Yeah, absolutely. They obviously used the trajectory of the Bastion team, and using those drones, obviously drones just go straight towards the target and just instantly just deleting those drones. And it does look like these Typhoons have smart bombs. The Typhoon issue does have dual utility high, so you could probably has a smart bomb on you. And it does look like these Typhoon issues are splitting up. One of those is going towards them. Yeah, one of the Typhoon is going towards them, and the other one is just burning away, I think. And yeah, damage is now finally going on. It looks like they're going to go for the Armageddon.
Yeah, one other thing that's been going in is this Vigilant has streamed in ahead of the rest of the test core, was trying to get on top of something. The Vigilant of Red Burly Squirrel, excellent username, is now on top of the Guardian at 0. Let's see if he can get a web. Okay, now he has a web and a scram on the Guardian on top at 0. Red Burly needs to be the immediate primary for Bastion, and Tess needs to stream across the field, get on top of this Guardian, lock him down along with this Vigilant, and just try to break the Guardian, trade that out for a Vigilant. If Test can do that, they will be in an excellent position and much further ahead in tempo.
Absolutely, and for a second there, the Vigilant did actually lose use his web and scram because he was actually neutered out, and he looks like he's been neutered out again, probably from that Armageddon heavy newt. And why is this Guardian not gunning? He should be turning on his microwave drive and trying to burn away from that Vigilant as much as possible, because this Vigilant is still on top of him. That Vigilant is actually taking quite a lot of damage. He's track disrupted, newt lost, target painted, and webbed right now, so it's really not looking good for that Vigilant. I mean, he just traded, you know, a potential tackle on the Guardian for a Vigilant, and the Vigilant goes down, and the Guardian remains untackled. Oh no, it looks like he did get his sacrifice was not in vain, and the Guardian now is retackled, and now he's slowly going into half armor. So we're going to see if that Vigilant trade was worth it.
Yeah, so Test had the right idea trying to get a Vigilant on top of the enemy team at 0, but as he did, he was about 60-70 kilometers ahead of the rest of his core, and without anything else to really support that tackle or to apply damage, it was just a Vigilant on top of the Guardian with no other actual assistance being able to use a tackle. Right now, Test is not actually taking any sort of appreciable damage on their core, and even though they may have not made the best play with that Vigilant, they're starting to make it pay off just now that they've got complete control over him. The Guardian needed to be burning away, as you were alluding to, Ryload, but now he's grappled and webbed, and it's too late for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, as you say that, he goes down. One thing that I did see real quick on the Stradiuses and Prophecies, they were actually remote Seaboing and actually remote capacitor transferring to the Guardian, and now they're going to go to waste using like a pseudo tinker on that Guardian, trying to run those. Because remember, Guardian only has 2 mids. And now he's dead. Those Stradiuses and Prophecies, those capacitor transfers are kind of useless right now, and Stradius is going down now for the Bastion.
Yeah, one other ship that's going down right now is Telanius in the Vigilant, the Oneros, getting some reps on him, but also struggling under capacitor pressure. One of the problems with being in a pseudo-tinker is that once the Guardian goes down, your Stradioses and your Prophecies will all be on top of Guardian Wreck at 0, which makes it very easy for Test to actually spread tackle across what wants to be a kiting drone comp that wants to use spacing and range to pull away. And right now we can see that what that means for Test is that they're applying the entirety of their attack bar onto that Stratios of Oshin, which is now dropped. And now the Pontifex and the Stratios have been tackled. Stratios will be the next primary, and Telanius and his Vigilant is somehow still surviving armor.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like he did get a big chunk of armor right there. So not only the DPS war, but unfortunately he is catching reps now, so the DPS war is being thoroughly lost by the Bastion just because Tess just having an Eros repping him no problem right now, and it looks like he has finally stabilized, and these Typhoon Fit issues have been smart bombing all day just because all those rep bots from the Prophecies and the Pontifexes and even potentially Stratios and Armageddons being smart bombed off, and now they're pretty much useless. They're just sitting at this point. Stratios is for some reason taking quite a long time, maybe because the Fleet Typhoons are probably on reload at this point. Yeah, I don't see them shooting, so Stratios will live for a little bit longer because the Fleet Typhoons are on reload, but he will die very soon. Meanwhile, they really need to trade for an Oneros. They really need to kill this Oneros, and it does look like he is neutered, target painted, and tracking disrupted, of course. So he will be, you know, he's sitting fine, just fine. He's actually burning away now. He's going 2.2k, trying to kite those drones, and Stratios now finally gonna go down because those Fleet Typhoons are from out of reload now.
Yeah, the Oneros is able to burn to freedom. Bastion realized that they couldn't actually get any sort of damage on Telanius, so they switched off to the Oneros, realizing that the Vigilant wouldn't break under reps. One other curious thing of note is that this entire time, Scoots has been tracking disrupted. Not the best use of E-War. Tracking disruption will do absolutely nothing to Oneros, who will have no sort of guns in their high slot. And now Chris Tyrell for Bastion has dropped. The Prophecy of Modern Inferno will be the next ship to fall in a blaze of glory, as he has been grappled and painted and webbed by Test Alliance. Please ignore.
Absolutely, the track and disrupt on Oneros is really key point right here. I mean, without that track and disrupt on Oneros, he might have died straight away, but it doesn't matter anyway because Test Alliance are have stabilized at this point. Prophecy now is just tackle, grapple, newt, webbed, all that kind of good stuff, and Vigilant is also being. It looks like Bastion are just being cleaned up at this point. Bastion, that Armageddon really needs to mute out those Vigilance, those Vengeance. You know, need to mute out all those tackle, and mean, he looks like he tried his, but I think it's too little, too late. And looks like Bastion are trying to go for bombers now. Bombers obviously have the weakest tank out of this entire ship line, so probably a good idea. Trying to catch that Oneros, who's might have been asleep right now. He is chilling in half armor, probably concentrating, trying to rep those purifiers and a prophecy down on the Bastion. So I think I don't think they have too much damage now. So I think it's too little, too late.
Yeah, so that giant attack or control bar that we see on Bastion is going to be almost entirely in newts, and Test in the Fleet Typhoons have a ship that doesn't really care that much about being neuted. Neuting off guns doesn't really happen when you're using either missiles or projectiles, and the Fleet Typhoons are definitely a missile ship. They're using their rapid heavies to great effect of the prophecy of Squall Delias, who is now dying right now, so... the Oneros is still getting primaried is into low armor, but he's sustaining just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised how much damage this Nero is taking. He is wrapping back up now, but before, when everything was tackled, he was actually taking quite a lot of damage, but he seems to be stabilized now. Prophecy slowly taking damage. The Typhoons are freeloading, as I would say. So this Prophecy is probably going to suffer one more. Oh no, they're off reload now, so he's going to be dying very soon. And there's a lot of smart bombs going off, so I think both teams were scared of rep drone spam or even just damage drone spam at this point. But it looks like it has paid off for those Tesla lines, because those Fleet Typhoons obviously have utility high and an utility new. So obviously they have 2 utility high, so they can both go. You can mix and match. Typhoons are quite strong ships in the tournament because of the utility that they can have. So yeah, I think in Bastion, their comp was questionable. I think they were maybe too scared of ECM, or they got outbanned because of that Gila Ishtar. They maybe wanted to go for the Ishtar instead of the Stratiosis or Prophecies. So the banning meta right now is pretty strong for Tesla lines right now.
Yeah, Bastion having a lot of links, having a pair of Pontifexes, the recently, relatively speaking, Command Destroyer, a very good link platform, as well as a Prophecy, so they'll have a good core of links on their team. That's why we see these Pontifexes dropping quicker, because the Prophecies don't have their links as they are dead. Katurna is into low armor now. Test was more or less in a very good position because of the fact that Bastion brought a lot of tracking disruptors, and the main core of damage on Test was these Vigilants, which are the only thing they could tracking disrupt. The Fleet Typhoons are missile boats, and the Purifiers don't really care if they're tracking disrupted either. So Bastion then panicking maybe a little bit, which is why we saw some tracking disruption on the Fleet Typhoon and the Oneros. Maybe needing to opt for some missile guidance disruptors instead. The Vexor of Carneros now dropping into fairly low armor. He might be the only ship that dies in the next 15 seconds. Really well played by Test Alliance, please ignore. I can't help but feel that they really just outpicked and outbanned the Bastion comp. I'm not a fan of Stratios and Prophecies paired together. Maybe one on their own, but not both together in one comp.
Absolutely. I definitely think Bastion were probably scared of Quad Navy BC Core, which has been, quite popular and very popular in the current meta and last meta. So obviously they brought a lot of tracking disruptors, but Tesla is bringing, kind of an old school-ish comp, bringing dual TFIs and, outpicking the Bastion. And without Tesla Lines go 67 and Tesla Lines go 100 and Bastion go 67. And with that, we'll take it back to the studio.
We've got the Kings of Losec with Project Mayhem.
Hey guys, welcome back. We saw there the return of the TFI core, kind of a throwback to the last two tournaments. This time, instead of filled out with kind of like the standard T3Ds maybe in the midsection there, we actually had Vigilance brought in. Great idea. They're only 8 points this year. They bring in a lot of value. But what do you guys think about the TFI here and how it was brought by Test Alliance? And then how do you think the Bastion dealt with it? Let's start with Brett.
I think the TFIs have definitely have strengths in certain places. Like the core battleships do so much damage to a lot of the higher end. It do well against, say, like the battlecruiser comps because of the amount of damage that can be applied. So they brought a setup which would face generally. It would be solid against every single comp that it could come up against. It wouldn't be very strong, but wouldn't be very weak against everything.
I think we'll see a little bit less of these TFI cores this year, simply because of the uptick in point value for battleships. I mean, if you take 2 battleships right off the bat, you're devoting a huge amount of your points to just 2 ships. I think we see a lot of teams electing to bring battle cruisers instead because you can spread those points out across more ships. So going for the TFI is a bit of a throwback to last year, and I think. Test ran it perfectly well. They took the win, but I don't think it's a later weekend comp, if that makes sense.
Yeah, last year we saw kind of the TFI core reach its kind of apotheosis, if you will, in that it was the TFI core with that Blackbird variant, and we were seeing teams such as PL. I think Tuscus even brought it once. Brought it on the very final weekend. So with the point changes, an extra 2 points per battleship and then an extra point per Blackbird, it does become very difficult in that point economy that all comps have to deal with. But yeah, as you say, Test ran it very, very nicely and did take out the win over the Bastion. I think as people expected, but sometimes the expected happens. It is, after all, the expected. We are scheduled to go on a break now before we come back for the second half of the day. The match after the break will be Northern Coalition versus Razor Alliance. But before we go, it's worth shouting out our sponsor, Chill Blast, who's given us a big help today with some of the tech, giving us some equipment. We've also got to mention, of course, the AT viewing party next weekend. Do come on down to Nottingham Antenna. Come hang out with us to watch the second weekend of the tournament. It's going to be the second weekend of the tournament. It's going to be fantastic. And then later on in the year, on the 18th of November, we've got EVE London. I'll be going. It's going to be a load of fun. It always is. EVE London, one of the oldest meetups in EVE Online for EVE. With that, massive thank you to the guys who've been with me on the desk so far. We've got Ithaca, Brett, before we had Reload and Suetonia. Of course, the casters, moderator, Suetonia, Elise as well. I think Jintan was here as well. And we will bring back all of these talented people after the 20-25 minute break.